What is up, humans? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be cutting for you guys this beautiful piece of crystal Ethiopian opal. It's got some great color all the way across the face, really broad, kind of red and green pattern. You can even catch the red and the green at the same time, which is pretty awesome. When you kind of look at the top and the side there, I am going to have to make this side the face, but I'm sure it'll work out. When you weigh it out, it is 2.68 carats, and I forgot to do the flashlight and the measurement tests this time. Sorry guys, but if you want to see how this stone turns out when I shape it, go ahead and stay tuned. First thing before we do anything here, it's really important to protect your eyes and lungs when working with silica-based stones. Now I'm starting out by carving this on my 800 grit diamond bit here, and I'm really sorry I didn't do the measurement test. I just totally spaced it and went right into carving this stone, but this is a really small stone. I was really worried about carving it at all. It was almost entirely clean through it, so there wasn't like a whole lot of dirt that I was seeing originally, but when carving through it, there were a couple of hairline little tunnels of dirt that went through that mounded up part on what will become the face. So I did end up having to grind down the stone on the face a bit more, and it ended up being a pretty flat stone, as you guys will see here in a second. But really important when you're carving such a small stone with your hands is really just use your thumbnail and press it against your other finger. And I'm using this technique here on the Nova points as well, like kind of pinching it in between my fingers and just gripping it for dear life, because you drop that thing, it's tiny, it gets lost in your work area, you're not finding that thing for a long time, so you really want to keep track and keep grip of those. Now moving on to my brown Nova point here, and again, the Nova points really are just kind of polishing off the scratches from the previous diamond bit usually, but in this case I did end up entirely the entirety of the kind of rounding that I did on the face was done in the Nova points here, because it did end up so small, and as you guys can see, it's tiny. So just really keeping grip, finishing up on the Nova points here. The silver Nova point will really get a kind of nice hazy finish on it, so you'll see kind of what pattern you're working with. Now with the Ethiopian opal, this won't show up until you dry it out, but with any other kind of opal, this will really be where you'll start seeing the pattern come through. Now, when polishing such a small stone, I do find that I am doing most of my Nova point work at the thinner end of the Nova point, because it like gives me a bit more control. I'm not polishing my fingers as much, and yeah, I can kind of like pinch it and then move it back and forth by the end of the Nova point, and it's a little easier to grip onto than if I did it on the thicker part of the Nova point, if that makes any sense. So this is what the shape ended up being like, and what the stone looked like before the water evaporated out of it. And then this is what the stone looked like when I let it dry out before I polished it. So I am now moving on to my polishing grits. And again, just using that pinching technique really helped me out with this particular stone. When I was letting the stone dry out before I polished it, I was like looking at it like, darn, I'm gonna drop this one a lot. So I prepared my little opal station area by laying down some like cloths in a circle around me, so that if I drop the stone, it will bounce off the ground and land on one of those cloths, hopefully, so it doesn't just skid across the ground through my whole area. So that's a technique that I used so that I don't lose my opals so much when I drop them. I also have a desk below my dremel that usually my stone falls on, but oftentimes it does fall off or fling over my head and fall on the ground. So I do kind of set up some stuff to make sure that that doesn't happen. But this stone, I didn't actually drop it that many times, and you'll see that at the end in the drop cam. Last drop cam was wild. And make sure you're still wearing your goggles when you're doing the polishing. I know it's tempting to not wear goggles so you could see a bit better, and you'll get the paste fling on your goggles, and then you'll try to wipe it off and it'll be all greasy because the diamond grit is based in some sort of like oil, silicone, greasy stuff that's not fun to clean off glasses, but it's even less fun to clean off your eyes, so please wear the glasses when working with the diamond pastes. Now, during this particular polishing paste bit, I realized it had a little like rock or something in it, and I had to replace my felt tip on this and repolish it off camera. It riddled the face of my stone with scratches, so that's a big reason why it's good to make sure that your felt tips are good and clean and good to go. I keep all my felt tips taped to their correlating paste tubes in a drawer. But I know that like Black Opal Direct and other people as well suggest to use like a wooden tip instead of a felt tip because the wood will absorb the like polishing diamond paste, and then you won't have to keep buying paste because you'll just be able to fire up your little wooden Dremel bit and it'll have the paste already in it. I haven't done that, but that's definitely something to try out if you're ambitious enough to craft your own wooden Dremel tips. I think it's a pretty cool idea. So this is what the finished stone looks like, guys. I'm having a little bit of a hard time gripping onto it. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's really beautiful. It's strong color all the way across the face, and I preserved that nice green and red kind of at the same time color pattern. I want to say it's a flagstone pattern. You can let me know down in the comments anytime you want to like comment on a pattern down in the comments. Please feel free to. I'd love that, actually. I get a little nervous sometimes naming patterns, but the original weight when it was a rough piece was 2.68 carats, and then when I shaped it before I polished it, when it was nova pointed and all that jazz, it was 0.69 carats, and then once it was totally done, the finished stone, all polished and everything, is 0.6 carats. So here's the little before and after action for you. Here's the stone before I cut it, and then the stone after I cut it. We ended up losing a total of 2.08 carats in this, and you know, I'm just happy to have anything out of this stone. It's such a gorgeous pattern that even just a little small stone will really get some good fire. This is the painting that I did this week. It's of an actor named Gordon Curry, This is the picture of him. It's from one of the Friday the 13th movies, and I turned him into He-Man, as you can see here. And then up here is the drop cam.